Well, good afternoon, everybody.
Hello there.
Good to have everyone back. This is what, our third meeting, bargaining, and we meet again tomorrow from 8 to 4. Today we go from 2 o'clock to 6 o'clock, and lots has transpired since we last left the table. And I want to update you again that I did take your proposal, your I guess your formula to the board, and.
Our formal chalkboard chicken scratch?
Yep, but I want you to know that it was received in the manner in which you'd want it to be received. They took it very seriously. So I want you to know it wasn't like dead on arrival when we put it in there. So that's good news. Here's the unfortunate piece to what I need to talk to you all today about. The 5 board members, like I said, are okay with the formula. This is what they would like to do. They don't have another board meeting, they don't have another board meeting until Thursday. We have an executive session prior to that board meeting. 5 board members said they'd like to do this with your formula. They wanted to talk to other school boards within our coalition and outside of our coalition, which they have and are continuing to do right now. They are going to also, they've instructed Harold Weislein, our school board attorney, to talk to other labor relation attorneys to find out indeed the actual intent or the law of could supplements be paid to teachers. You know what I'm saying? More importantly, supplements being paid to teachers would be a part of the retirement system, which we think is part of it, but they want to double check and make sure. They then wanted to also, because all 5 board members had questions that I could not answer at that time, because of course, this is so new and such a different, situation that we're all in. They had themselves wanted time to process it and think about it. Now, I know that you and I had agreement from session 1 that we would try to get to pay for performance and get it out of the way, and then get to other language issues or maybe just issues and topics that you had suggested that we talk about prior to. But at this point, I'm not able to really do anything further with your all's formula until after Thursday. We are back at the table July 9th. I'm hoping that I'll have, July 9th, Tuesday.
We're not next Monday? I'm sorry to interrupt you,
Yeah.
but
No, we're not bargaining next Monday.
the 30th was canceled?
Yeah.
Okay.
So our next meeting is it Wednesday? Wednesday, July 9th.
After tomorrow.
Yeah, July 9th. We bargained from 8 till 4. And so I'm hoping at that point, I'll have further direction from our board, and we can then bring back up pay for performance. So what I would like to propose today, since we have a day and a half of bargaining, you had put 15, I think, somewhere close to 15 topics that you had hoped that we would be able to discuss at some course during our talks. I have yet to be able to pass our language across the table to give to you all. So do you feel that in the best interest of not sitting around and worrying about pay for performance and wasting time, could we maybe discuss some of these other issues? Maybe see if there's some agreement that we could come to with TAs, or just at least some productive discussion prior to July 9th.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
That way, I feel like we could maybe get some of this stuff out of the way. I know that I've also thrown out an MOU to you guys about we've got to come back at some point, and I know that your guys, the ROTC guys, have discussed raises or supplemental pays for their things that they want to do. But the inevitable piece here, whether that happens or not, they're going from 12 months to 11 months. And contractually, we need to understand that that's their contract will change. So that's why I've got an MOU that I think, I'm almost certain that I gave to you across the table that first session. But we held off on showing that or discussing it because we wanted to wait for those ROTC guys to come in and make a presentation.
I'm sorry I'm giving you a dumb look. I remember an MOU, I remember the discussion,
Yes.
absolutely. And I remember an MOU about the early release day with the PGP.
Right.
I'm not off the top of my head, I'm not
And
denying it.
if I made a mistake and said I gave it to y'all, then I apologize.
I know y'all said that it,
Right.
I mean, you're not surprising me with the
We have a bunch
conversation.
more copies, so
Okay.
we can pass that across.
Someone may watch the tape and say Dan's just forgetful, but,
So what I'm saying is I've got some things that I think that will keep, at least me, busy, at least entertained, if you guys would, at least, take a look at these things, maybe introduce your topics, or if you like, I can pass my language across the table if you feel like you're all ready.
okay, we're all shuffling papers here.
Yeah, we're getting
I want to
there.
respond to everything you said, but while we're shuffling papers, we'll,
You spoke of it, you didn't hand it
Okay, I'm sorry, I stand corrected, I spoke of it, but I did not hand it out.
okay.
Oh, good.
But yeah, you have, I mean, you haven't surprised us with this.
And it's got Joy's name on it,
Yeah, so we know we didn't put it across.
and it's got Richard's name on it.
Well, it's gotta have Richard's.
out. Actually, the one you had that day, it was going to take your name and Richard's name too.
Yeah, so maybe these are the old copies.
Yeah, I think they
Hold on a
might
second, let me go back.
be. Yeah, it's not the same wording, guys, I can tell you.
Oh, then let's
Okay,
correct
scratch
them
that.
out. These are old.
Here's the one.
Yeah.
Here's the one that I had that day.
And we did pass it out.
We'll recollect.
Yeah, we did pass it out.
We passed it out to us, but my note says we didn't pass it to them.
You all might remember seeing this.
Okay.
Jim, for some reason, I thought you might have even referenced the article. I didn't know you were going for an MOU. I thought you might have been wanting to actually reference the article in the contract.
Yeah, we did.
I'm not suggesting one's better than the other, but that's just
Passed out the other one.
my memory of something I don't remember, but.
Yeah.
That was my second day on my job.
I'm glad you made it back.
And look, I've last 3 weeks.
You're almost a month already, so you're doing all right.
And I'm already still passing Joy Salazar's language
You're
across.
still right.
All right, why don't we,
Is it the little baby one?
look, I know I said a
We
lot
need
to
to
a lot.
correct them up.
We seem to have lost focus.
We've lost everybody in this.
We lost everybody. We're still
So-
bargaining folks.
Yeah, it's not the
Yeah,
same
the-
wording.
the language-
It's not the right language.
Could you pass that
Correct it up,
back?
It's not right.
It was just a test to see
Yeah.
how well we could pass them.
That's not right.
Had this been actual contract language, you would have, okay, we're ready.
Do we need to go make copies of this then?
Are you suggesting that the tornado drill has been lifted from that, we can return to our stations?
Well, these are the old, this has Joy's name on it, so I know I've got a copy somewhere.
That, yeah, this is the,
You get
I'm
that
sorry,
back.
this is the one that day.
Let me,
And I wrote on it.
well, before we do anything,
I
Dan,
have a-
do we want to talk about the MOU with ROTC, or is that something we can wait till tomorrow?
This document from Anne Marie Brush, no.
Yeah.
Well, let me go back to, because I want to, yes, we do want to talk about that. But just to backpedal a little bit, yes, I agree with you that in lieu of a counter proposal, further discussion on money, that, well, yeah, we're going to use our time.
Yeah, let's use
And we're going to get into our topic, certainly. We took on the challenge of, I guess, eating the frog first, which is, money is usually the frog. And so we took that on, if we went as far as we can, and now it's in your hands to do that. I do want to give a couple messages to you, your team, and especially the board. I'll trust if I give it to you, it's in good hands to go where it needs to go. I think the talks so far, the spirit, the tone, the collaboration has been all positive.
Yes, it
Even your
has.
message to me today that we're not ready to counter propose, okay, I understand, you're making sense when you tell me what you have to do. I want those folks that are now going through their process that you described, I want them to realize what they realize already. But this is new for everyone. This is new language across the state we're all trying to figure out. When our parent organization gets together, our state organization gets together, FEA, and we all talk to each other, and I understand boards are going through that process, I'm sure superintendents are going through their process, chief negotiators get what chief negotiator, when we all go through this, we all look at each other and go, well, what are we gonna do with this? I don't know, what do you think you're gonna do? So, we brainstorm, just like these other groups are brainstorming. And if our proposal that you and I and us as teams, if we're kind of thinking, okay, maybe we can try this, all right? I'd understand if the answer is no, because it doesn't fit in the law, the letter of the law. And I want the board to know that if they come back, if Mr. Beislein or other school boards come back and say, we were gonna go that route, but it doesn't fit the law. We have a legal ruling says we can't do that. Well, then we have to go back and look at the law and figure this out, because there's no part of this where I want to break the letter of the law.
Okay.
And I don't think I have. I think we all worked together, made a good. However, I'm not gonna accept very easily if it seems to be behind the scenes that all districts are getting together on their own and saying, look, this is the only way we can do this, let's all stick together, let's be firm on this and do it this way.
I don't think that's.
And I'm not accusing
Yeah.
anyone of that.
No.
As you deliver that message, don't say Dane's
I
accusing him
yeah,
of that.
No, I would never say that to them, you know that. I just want you to know, I'm getting the impression, and I'm giving you my word on this, that that's not what is occurring.
Good.
What I really see as sincere, genuine, what I see from 5 board members and our superintendent is a real sincere desire to make this formula work, as long as we don't have something coming back as far as legislation that could backfire on us, or the intent that we really didn't interpret the law as best as we should, and we should have done due diligence by checking a little further into it. That's all the message that has been communicated to me. I don't see this, you know, underground, hey, let's all get together and see if we could come up with some sinister plan to try to keep this from happening. I don't see that at all.
I will offer one more reference for him, so I don't have copies for everybody. Got 3 copies, but I'll make sure you get a copy of this. This is just research. I talked about another county last time. I mentioned Broward County,
Yeah,
Fort Lauderdale.
I've talked to them.
They have their thing going there. Article 21 of their contract. I mean, it's 3 pages, but I'll make sure you get a copy of it. Article 21 talks about these incentives that they have. That's what they call their,
Supplements.
I guess, loyalty supplement.
Yeah.
They do tie it to something. They have, you know, so many, and so many in-service hours. And Baltimore schools, by the way, has been doing this for years. They tie it to so much of something in a year. And that's free to negotiate, whatever we want that to be. And when you have cleared that hurdle, and actually they link it to so many years, you have to have 3 years plus so much of something in order to get the basic incentive. And that becomes a supplement to your pay. It's part of FRS, so they pay the fringe on it for FRS. It's divvied up in each check. You don't get a separate check. You know, it's just part of it, and it continues. And then later on in your career, you can get an advance incentive award. Now, I didn't want it that exact model because it's a base pay, and I'm suggesting every year we could come back and these things will become differentiated through the years, right? But they do have that, some kind of model going on there.
And so you've talked to you're in contact with those union representatives from Broward?
I talked to one of their guys. I don't have his title. It's a guy I
That's
worked
all
with
right.
when I was down there. But yeah, he's in the BTU office down there, and he referenced this to me. I remember I actually got this when I was in
Well, you know,
Broward.
I think they're out of the gate first, because their board and their lawyers spoke to the conference that I attended first. They seem to, they've got a consultant out of Chicago that kind of helped them draft this with their union and with their board. So they seem to, like I say to your folks, they seem to be ahead of the game as far as how they're
Yeah.
proceeding.
They were behind for a while.
Well,
They were over a year behind on their contract. They were actually ratifying 1 year's contract from 2 years ago. But yeah, they've done a lot of work on this. But I just want to share with you, that model is there where a supplement can be a piece of the pay.
are you
And
gonna
I told
share
you-
that model with us, or are you gonna?
Well, I told you, I get you the language.
Okay,
So
all
I'll get
right.
you
I would
that,
like to
so-
look at that.
Right, I'll make sure I give you that. I'm sorry I don't have copies for everybody. We're trying to hide it from you. Collect it and pass it out, collect it back, but we got that. All right, so I'm in agreement. Do you want me to put our topics back up? You want to toss that topic?
You know,
It's your turn to toss out a topic?
You want me to write them?
why don't we do that? We've got to run it down, but you know what? Yeah. let's
Actually,
go ahead.
well-
You've got about 15 topics, or 16 if I remember. 18.
I'm thinking, this, the one we want to talk about is really this one, if we had to get to one first out of the gate, as opposed to just picking from
Do you want to just go
a
list
list.
them?
Yeah, well, I don't think we need to actually, because we have one that I think we could use our time with to get to. It's kind of an urgent thing, but it was your idea. Do you want to toss one out first?
No, why don't we, you know what, why, in the best interest of what's going on, since you guys put those topics up on the board the first day, let's start with you. If we can get through some of your topics today, then maybe tomorrow I can pass my language out. If we get tired of talking about your topics, we'll pass them on to I'm just saying, we need to, you know, I'd like to just, I'm interested to see what you have to say about, you know.
We can always hope that we have exactly the same topics, you know, that might happen.
Well, before we go there, I wanted to update you all on this tuition reimbursement committee.
Oh, we've got our.
Because that's the one thing that I picked up on in the last 8 years, is I want to make sure that our committees are, that I deal with them in a timely manner. Spoke to Debbie Greco, spoken to Debbie Greco twice. She is very adamant about putting someone on this committee, so I'm glad I called her. Debbie will get us, when I spoke to her last week, she called Rhonda yesterday and said that she was not delaying in giving us the 3 names, that she'd been extremely busy, but she'll have the 3 names to us by Friday. So this is what we've got so far, Dan. I think that you've got Vicky and,
We've got 3 names for you here.
yeah, that's.
I've been delaying until now, so I'll give you.
I knew that Vicky was one of them.
We've got,
No, not
we've
anymore.
got
Okay.
we've got Stephanie Ely,
Okay.
who is not here today, she
Right.
sings her best. We've got Michelle Cranen
All right,
and Sandy Edwards.
okay.
And we're just with vacations and people out of town, this
Yeah.
is a priority, but it'll probably be mid-July.
That's great.
Before
That's
we get
perfect,
people
because that's what,
together. All right.
okay. Now, who we have
I see
is.
some nod heads, right, mid-July is better than
Right.
tomorrow.
We've got Rhonda Stewart, we've got Ken Wynn, and Rick Morton. So then that's something we can agree on, that by mid-July, that means when we come back July 9th, 2 or 3 days after that, we'll get our committee cranking, and we'll try to get a decision from the committee on how we want to proceed. And we know what you all are asking for,
Mhm.
and I told you we're receptive to that. I think what you know what our issue is just putting a cap on it. Okay? And we'll let the committee come back and recommend to you and I what it is that they feel is representative of what we want to have happen.
Yeah, on the surface, I think we agree.
Yeah, I
It's
think
just a
that's what I'm
matter of
saying. I think this is just a
someone work
matter
out the details.
Right, and it's also a matter of being fair to the Debbie Greco and her bargaining unit,
Mhm.
allowing them to have a little input. So, okay.
All right,
Cleaned up that business.
big topic, next Rod.
Yep, yes.
Let's see, did we get this out to my team? I'll get this over to Ken. Oh, yeah, thank you. Oh, actually, oh, no, we're good. No, I just gave away my only copy. All right. I'm giving you something just as a reference. I'm not, oh, no, I got it right here. Thanks. I'm not suggesting that this is a menu and just pick your favorite. But, and this is not even a complete list. I hope I've looked this over and there's no dirty words on there for my state. I think there are. But, there are different counties in this state, and this, as I said, this is not the complete list. But they have various models of job security for AC teachers. In case it's not obvious, this, my topic is reappointment for AC teachers. I think we need to have somewhere in our contract protections that annual contract teachers that are highly effective or effective on the, oh, help me out, 47-point part, the part that we know before they go home for summer.
Summative part 1.
Summative part 1, thank you. I mean, we don't know BAM scores, we can't make
Right.
reappointment decisions in November. But the ones that have a good summative 1 part, I think there should be an automatic renewal process for them. It could be a simple statement that annual contract teachers with effective or highly effective shall be reappointed. I would certainly understand, I would expect that you all would want some kind of provision for if there's a job available. There are some certifications out there that are tough. Sometimes positions go away, courses go away, so I'm sure you'd want some kind of position and funding pending language. That's it, that's all I got.
So this is what other districts are putting in their contracts that assure annual contract teachers they have a job.
Right, this is already in other this is actual language from past years. I mean, this, and we're all, just so in our back table talk, you know, in our room when we get together and talk, we're all going for it this year. This is gonna be a statewide push. We understand it has to be linked to evaluation, that is what the legislation wants. You know, the legislation wants employment decisions tied to evaluation, and we're not trying to subvert the law in any way.
And this, what I'm getting at is this, so this, there's no language here other than just what other contracts are from these counties. So-
Well, I think in the spirit of what you and I
Yeah.
talked about, we're just gonna talk about the issues, get some
Okay.
kind of agreement in principle, and then crank out language from it, from what we agreed to. I've looked at Indian River, my eye keeps catching Indian River, just 'cause it's kinda short, it's there on the first page. And they've mentioned budget. I think this county usually likes to be a little bit more specific than that, it's a little bit open-ended, except for the budget, right? But maybe positions or certifications, something like that, just seems more like your style to do it that way, but, and of course, they got their own acronym for the evaluation, TEP, we got our
What's
own
in
thing.
the U?
What's our what?
Looking at Indian-
Probably member of the bargaining unit, that's probably what they call their members of the bargaining unit, but yeah, I mean, this whole thing is chock full of lingo.
Right, right, I can put it together.
Their own district lingo.
I mean, okay, that's something for us, that would be something that obviously I'd have to speak to our team and to our board about. I mean, so you're looking to try to, what you're basically looking for is something to strengthen or guarantee contractual rights to annual contract teachers if they're highly effective or effective following, if they have,
Mhm.
following year.
Correct,
And that's all annual contract teachers.
correct. Given, I'm sure you'll want to tie it to jobs. I'm not gonna write that language for you, but yeah, I'm sure you'd want to tie it to jobs.
I mean, we're receptive, but I couldn't give you an answer right now. I mean, obviously, this is something that would have to be discussed with the board, have to be discussed with our team, vetted, looked into.
You want a break, talk to your team?
I mean, I could probably talk to them, but it's probably not anything that we can make a decision today on them. I mean, I can guarantee you that we can talk about it, but the bottom line is I would have to come back to you here at the table and say, Dan, we're gonna need some time on this. That's one issue.
Okay. You have one?
Oh, I can pass out our language.
Did you?
Right.
Do you want to? I mean, okay, I thought we might go back and forth on presenting issues.
All right, well, let me go ahead and pass out our language. Here, let me make sure that-
I'll tell you what, Joe, I'm gonna let you highlight which one to talk about. If you want to give it all in one shot, I'm still gonna let you.
I'll take the first one.
I mean, is that fair? You'll tell me, you'll say, reference this one over here?
She asked me about that before we go on to your issue.
Okay,
How
well,
would you define it?
Did you have more on the AC topic to talk about?
oh, I got two people talking to me. You want to know about the budgetary
Yeah.
constraints?
How would you define budgetary constraints?
Well, I found was, here's my take on it. As a union guy coming to you all, I'm telling you, I want all my AC teachers back. They're effective or highly effective. Okay? I'm trying to be proactive and thinking that you all might have some concerns about that. Sometimes programs disappear. Sometimes people are coming back from leave. And I might not be able to bring back every single teacher in every single field.
Right.
And you might not want to be handcuffed to contract language that I brought you. So all I'm suggesting is that if you had those concerns and you were gonna say, oh, I don't know if I can agree to that, because now I'm handcuffed to language, well, I'm suggesting use your creativity and bring me your exceptions to that language.
All right.
That's all. In Indian River, they did that, and they just put in a general phrase, except for budgetary constraints. And in my eyes, that, like, for example, in this county, we have students are fleeing from the PE programs to do it online. And so PE is a tight spot to fill. Every kid needs PE, but now they're just doing it on the computer, right? So it's tough to promise every single PE teacher next year you'll be teaching PE. So you as a district might want to say, hold on, Dan, I got to make some allowance in your contract language for that. I'm not going to tell you how to write it, or, I mean, we can talk about that back and forth, but that's how they dealt with it in Indian River. They said except for the budget.
So to clarify, just so I understand, my team understands, what you're suggesting would be, if you could, you'd like all of the annual contract teachers to be able to be renewed and come back and start the next following school year. However, you would like for us to take a look at our workforce to see which areas might be of the highest need, if that's where we need to begin from our end, and then we could go back and forth as how we might look at making this happen, right? Is that what you're saying?
No.
I mean, best
Well, I'm
case
not starting with
scenario.
highest need. I'm saying they should all be back.
All right, I know, I got it.
If they're effective or highly effective, they should be back.
All of them.
And that's, yes, every
Okay.
single effective or highly effective teacher should be invited back.
Okay.
Did you want to add to that?
Yeah, we understand the concept of allocations at a school level. So
Right.
it's the teachers who are being told it's not working, who have highly effective evaluations, and then see their job advertised and people coming and interviewing. That's the population
that's the
we're really
problem.
trying to reach here. So that, you know, if we're gonna be using this evaluation system as a model to improve teaching practice, then that's what it should be used for. But we have teachers that are calling that, you know, I looked at one today, 42. She scored a 42 on the summative side, and she doesn't have a placement, but yet that job is being advertised at her school. So that's what we're really working toward here, is to keep that kind of thing from happening, correct?
Correct. Hey, you know what, Jim, and this, I'm glad that Jen asked to speak, because we did agree up front that, you know,
Yes, yeah,
we're gonna
we can
introduce
talk.
it, we're gonna put out there, and at some point, we have to say, we have to turn to the teams, and anyone else that has something
That's
to
why I
add.
asked Judy to go. Okay, so the real issue then is those teachers who are annual contract, who, for no reason, don't know why, they see their jobs advertised.
And they don't have a job now.
Now, there are other situations. I mean, not only that, but we know there's a PSE transfer period. And so sometimes, you know, the principals end up taking in some PSEs. Judy is usually one that remembers the teachers come back from leave. Sometimes we forget about them, but we always have people come back from leave and they gotta fit back in. And so you could have a school that's not really shrinking, and yet there's a third grade AC teacher there with a good evaluation. And just by the time transfers were over and people come back from leave, or they're all of a sudden they're out. And I would go so far as to say that there should be such a thing as reappointed but unassigned, with the confidence that there will be a spot in the county for a good third grade teacher.
Right. Jen and Dan, the example that you had provided, there was a teacher you said who had a score of overall 42 in the first part of summative 1. Did she receive a letter, or he receive a letter that they were non-renewed?
I think we got 2 of them on that.
There's
website.
several of them.
We have several of them.
We can, if we want to take a break, I can even pull up that list for you, Jim, because that's been something specifically
Yeah.
we've been questioning on.
We've got teachers that are out there that have those good evaluations, and that even their job might not be even advertised at the school. Some are. I know the specific case Jen's talking about, where yes, the job is advertised at the school. And she's just kind of heartbroken that, why are they advertising my position when there's a position for me? And then there's jobs across the county that are gonna, I mean, it's a general certification, it's a K-6 certification, it's not, some of those certifications are really pigeonhole sort of things. I'm thinking like middle school business, I mean, there's only so many of those. But this is a very general, could go anywhere. And this person's gonna have another long summer
You know, we experienced this in our first few years of teaching. So we all went through those first 3 years and waiting for that fourth year on the first day, but now we've got teachers in their 7th, 8th year of teaching who are going through this continuously. So we've got to offer some type of protection and really to try and retain these people, because there's some of them that are saying, I can't keep doing this every year. I can't keep packing up my classroom, calling you crying because I can't find a school to go to. So we've got to help relieve this process somehow.
And I can't look at their evaluation and say, see, now your principal's told you all year your class is out of control, and that's not why you're not, I can't look at the evaluation and say that, because it's not there.
Okay.
Or look at all these PDAPs, they've been trying to get you to fix this all year, and you're just not fixing it. Because they're, as indicated by their evaluation, they're not having, you know, those kinds of problems that make principals, you know, not want to take them back.
All right, we'll take a look at it. We're listening and we'll discuss it. Okay, I gave you
All right.
all some language, right?
No.
Oh, okay.
Did anyone else on this team, or even your team, I think, want to talk about the AC? Is that okay if we open that up for
You
some?
got one.
I do. I just
Yes,
want to make
Michelle.
sure that what we're talking about too is within, you know, by the end of the school year or within a couple of weeks after the end of the school year. That there, I mean, is that what we're talking about also? Like we're putting a time frame on it to where these guys aren't suffering through the summer?
That's a good point. There's probably consideration we'd have to have if we get around the crafting language. Typically, ACs are reappointed, I think, the first board meeting of the summer. Does that sound right? So I think I'd wanna do that. Plus, I'll just toss out as a bonus, y'all are gonna save some unemployment money
Okay,
when they're back, because when they have that highly effective and they're unemployed, they do get benefits.
okay.
They have to, anyone watching the tape here, they gotta stop them when they are reappointed. But we've had some who've gone the whole summer. I'm sorry, Debbie?
Well, the other problem, I mean, besides all of that, is that they're looked at as part-time, they're looked at as seasonal employees. And it's difficult for them to get loans, it's difficult for them to get houses, it's difficult for them. That's all, logistical things that have nothing to do with, you know, with, all of this, if they were in the contract, if it says, you know, high effective or highly effective, that they're gonna be appointed annually, you know, and it's shown, you know, okay, I've been effective, I've been highly effective, look, you know, for 3 years, I've got some consistency, then the banks are gonna look more favorably at that kind of stuff, and, you know, but when they keep getting shifted and moved every year, it's difficult for them to get loans and stuff like that. And that's a real problem. And that's one of those unintended consequences that I'm sure the legislature never even thought of. It's very real.
Representative Chrysopoli's response is, can't you bargain that locally?
Sure.
Sure, we can bargain.
That's true. That's what he told me that as well. And it was brought up a little, a note came to me that said, if we look at the unemployment part of the budget book, just to put out as a fact, this year, 13-14, the year that we're in, and I imagine that budget covers this summer as well, there's a budget line for $275,000 for unemployment. Last year, what was spent was $446,000. So if we could save some money and get back our effective teachers, you know, maybe that's a win-win for everyone.
You know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think last year was a unique year in that we had to let so many folks go because of the 6 and 7, so that number may be a little inflated due to the circumstances that we faced with, you know, precedents of having to do something that we didn't want to do here in this district. However, I know what you're saying.
Mhm.
There would be savings to the district in unemployment if we would consider this. And Chris O'Felly said, bargain this at the table?
Yeah, we told him about that. I know you weren't in that meeting, I had a separate meeting from her, so he told me, we had a meeting, we went in there. Like, I went in with one of the board members and we talked about, I think, we all going together? No, I think it's still in the lobby, but.
Maybe
This
it's
is
just
what
I don't-
happens, though, you know this, I mean,
Lose
they
our minds.
create
Yeah.
these laws, and
They
then
create a
it
mess.
becomes, now it's your school
That's
board's
what I'm
fault,
saying,
and so.
they say things,
We're well aware of that. But it is true that we could bargain some language that would bring some relief to this situation, so.
We'll take a look at it. It's reasonable. It's not anything
And
that I
it's-
didn't expect you all to have to, talk
Yeah.
to us about. I mean,
Yeah.
I've heard you all say this before, and, you know, it's not unexpected.
Do want to recognize y'all did a nice job this year, better than in the past. The board got a lot of people back at, right around spring break. We're able to tell people that, heard about an Oprah moment at a school where we found out that they had a job. And then through the year, through the weeks between spring break and the end of the year, a lot of teachers were told that
Yeah.
that they had that, so.
Much better.
Good stuff. All right, was anyone else on that one?
I just wanted to ask, is that something you think that, when you talk about, you said you're gonna meet with the board before we come back on July 9th? You're gonna talk about the money. Is this something you'll also be able to talk about, and when we come back July 9th, you think that,
Well, when I meet in an executive session, I always update them on the topics that they're discussing at the table. And this is the very first and I think important topic that you all have introduced today, so yes, I'll mention it to them.
okay,
You know, usually when you meet in an executive session, it's like, because they're responsible for so much, they like to discuss it, then they like to think about it, and then they want to come back and then give me some direction. So usually, unless it's just something very simple and matter of fact, I don't really get a, oh, yes, or no. So what I think you're saying, Mrs. Edwards, is, will I talk about it? You bet. I will let them know that this is out of your 18 topics, this is the #1 topic that you all listed as something that you all want as to be considered. Well, but pay performance is the most important, right?
Well, that's for,
See,
well,
that's what I was gonna say, pay performance is our biggie right now. but
We know, what do they
yes.
say, in Tallahassee, they write all, they get together for their session and they spend 3 months writing laws and bills and
Yeah.
everything, but they say the only thing we have to do is pass a budget.
Right.
Technically, if all they do was pass the budget, they could do that, go home.
Yeah.
Well, we do,
We have to talk about money, you're right.
yeah, we have to do that at some point.
Okay, but yes, Ms. Edwards, it will be discussed on Thursday. I promise you.
Okay. So basically, you're setting expectations that tomorrow you're not gonna be ready to respond to
No,
with
no.
the annual contract. Okay. Let's make sure we have.
I think right
productive-
now, what I'm trying to do is.
Make sure we have productive
Right.
tomorrow now.
What I wanna try to do right now is and I think this is the best way to go about it, is I know you have a list of 18 things. I think you need to prioritize what you think are the most important. And even if I have to step out, you all caucus a little bit to decide what are the most important. Give me an idea of what I need to go to the board with on Thursday. That way I'm not wasting your all's time. So these are things that are gonna take considerable amounts, not considerable amounts of time, but they're gonna be considered. You know, they're not things that we would weigh in with a yes or no very quickly on. So,
Our next bargaining is July.
9th.
Well, you're on- you're on-
We bargain on
Casey's
Wednesday.
You're on you're on vacation.
I'm on
for-
vacation, yeah.
So we're not getting you back before July 9th? is
I'm
that-
getting 1 week, that's all I need. gang.
Okay.
One
That's-
week
yeah,
and I'm back. Yeah,
We're gonna be, one of the Carolinas will all show up?
I'm gonna be in the Carolinas, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Which Cracker Barrel off the interstate will? Okay. Would you like to introduce one of yours?
I would. It's the very first item on our list. It's Article 4, grievance procedure. And for those of you all who have never experienced a grievance, it usually works this way in our old contract. Obviously, if you grieve something, you bring it to the principal. Usually Dan or Richard or Jen will show up to represent the teacher. And then if the principal says, no, I see it differently, this is the way it's going to be, then Dan or Jen or Richard would say, well, we're gonna take it to a step 2 grievance. And guess what? You meet with the principal. And, you know, what do you think the principal's gonna say out of step 2 grievance? No, I think I see it differently. And then a step 4 would be that it comes to HR. What's that? Step 3, I mean, yeah, step 3. So, you know, in discussing with our team, that may not be fair to your all's contingency. And so what I'm proposing is a much, what I consider a process that might be more fair, a little bit, allow more due process. Step one grievance would be listened to by the principal.
You've got step one is coming straight to you.
Step two.
Step
Step
two,
two.
hold on. Step one would go to the principal. Step two grievance would then
Okay.
come to me, Director of HR.
Got it.
And then step three would go straight to Mrs. Pace, who is the head of HR. That way then, it would be that you, the union, and your teacher would be listened to. You're not messing around with the principal twice, you're probably hearing the same response twice, and it would give you all an opportunity to feel like, we're actually trying to do a better job of trying to solve the problem. No smoke and mirrors, nothing to be attached here, nothing to be afraid of. Just that we just feel like it's an undue process on our principals, and I think it's also a burden on you guys. I don't think it's fair to you all or the teacher, and I don't think it's a good way to do business. I'm here for a reason. Principal hears you in grievance one, hopefully you straighten it out, then you go to two, you come to me, and if I don't, the teacher doesn't feel it's right, then it goes to Ms. Pace.
Okay. I appreciate that, that you're trying to make things a little bit easier. And I think you are. I just want to, I think I like this system, this setup. I do just want to go on the record as saying that I did once have a principal very agreeable and very positively solve something at step two.
All right.
Principal in the room right now that really wasn't trying to hurt a teacher in any way, but he just needed another meeting to go through and figure out, okay, hey, look at this, I thought about it, I really can do something for you, and really did help out. So I've seen these things actually work out at step two with principal, so it's not a total waste of time, but I think I see what you're getting at. It makes sense, I mean, everything you're suggesting makes sense.
We wouldn't change any of the days, you can see we haven't changed any of the time processes, all it would be is who's listening to the actual grievance.
I would like to suggest, though, that since you're opening this article, okay, there's an opportunity to fix another awkward thing. You all point out the awkwardness of, you go talk to the principal, no, talk to the principal again, and hope for something different, right? That's awkward, I'll agree. But there's another awkward part in there, which makes it that there is no timeline for when step one has to be filed by. But then there is a timeline for filing by step two. Step two, we have to get to by 18 days. And sometimes when a teacher has something happen, well, sometimes they don't call the first day. Sometimes they go home, they stew over it for the weekend or something, or they talk to some colleagues, some coworkers, and this, that, everything, and then they gather up their courage, they call the union office. By then, we're several days into it. And we describe the process, and we tell them what we can do, and then they want to think about it a little bit. And next thing you know, we're day 15, 16, and I have to file a step two simultaneously with the step one. And that's awkward. I mean, that's just the definition of awkward. Deborah, I'm filing step one and step two at the same time. I'm that mad, I'm filing two steps at once, at the
And that
same
makes
time.
me so happy.
And they love that. And the principals call up the HR, and HR says, they can't do that, what are they? So, get that, we're a little bit,
What do you want?
So what I think is that the time limit of 18 days should be with step one. And we should say, step one, we got 18 days to get there. And then from there, we have all our timelines in place, and the principal sets up a meeting within 5 days. We have our meeting, principal gives an answer within 5 days, we have our meeting, and then we have, if we're not satisfied with the answer, certainly don't wait another 18 days, but give us 5 days. We get the answer from the principal and give us 5 days to get to step two.
All right?
Because really, the wait time that's needed, all the consideration a teacher has to make is to grieve or not to grieve. We don't need 18 days after step one to
Can I have-
decide, am I gonna go?
Can my team weigh in?
18 days at step one? I mean, if there's a problem, it doesn't take 18 days to figure it out. I would be hesitant to.
Well, I'm suggesting that sometimes it does, because you know that we've had those awkward situations where we're filing step one and step two at the same time. And that's because the one that takes the time, the decision
To go forward.
to go forward, that time is from the incident to step one. By the time we get to step one, we don't need to drag out, we don't need 18 days to think about going to step two. Right?
About that.
Was that, I'm sorry?
Yes, I think we can probably agree there, but I'm not sure that we need 18 days between.
I'd like to hear
happening
from
and
my,
step one.
I hear Ron just shaking. Is there more of a reasonable time? Instead of 18, what would be more reasonable?
We've always given you 18 days to get to step 2, because you can file a step 1 whenever, but you have to be 18 days at the step
Alright.
2.
Someone's passed me a note, what about 10 days?
for-
Well, let's-
That's
let's-
2 weeks, not even counting the weekends.
Yeah, it's always working days.
That's what I'm saying, it's
Yeah,
working.
yeah, we do have that
That's-
understanding, so it's
That's
working.
10 days, not counting the weekends, so that's really almost close to your
Understand,
18
here's
days.
what happens, with this 18 days, quite often that gets pushed back anyway. And we have this informal working understanding that if we have to push back a timeline, we push back a timeline. But here's how it gets pushed back. We know we have 18 days to get to step 2, that's an awkward little guideline. I can't tell you how long to step 1, but I can tell you how long to step 2, right? So a teacher gets us, we make that decision, let's say it's day 8. Just day 8, I've decided I'm moving forward. Okay, so I write a little email to the principal, I need to meet with you, it's step 1, blah, 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 blah. Principal has 5 days to get back to me, schedule a meeting. Principal says, I'm busy. The principal gets back to me 5 days later, but now I'm at 13. I'm busy the next couple of days, we're all busy the next couple of days, so how about next Thursday? Now we're having our meeting on day 18, or we're having our meeting on day 20, you know, things just get pushed back. Now I talk to the principal in all fairness gets 5 days to tell me what they think. So sometimes we're on day 20, 25 before we even have an answer from the principal, which is not the fault of the principal, that's just circumstance. And we all understand that we can go to step 2.
Well-
And then what happens, Jim? Jim, then what happens is I'm running to the principal, I just had the meeting with the principal. Like, by day 15, we got to a meeting with the principal, and I'm handing them to step 2, because I got this funny timeline, I gotta get to you by day 18. So I think the step 2 should be determined by the end of step 1. We say by the time step 1 is done, then you've got, let's say, 5 days to go to step 2.
But Dan, this is what I know why, at least this is the way it's been explained to me with some of these, why these days are being stretched out. It gives all parties a chance to cool down. Emotions are settled, and because we're trying to avoid a grievance to step 2, we're trying to avoid a grievance to step 3.
Can I?
Go ahead, yeah, it's hybrid. so-
Can't you, instead of setting the dates by the date of the whatever incident, can't you set the dates by the date of the setting, you know, I mean, whatever date the grievance is filed? Can't you set, like, step 1, you have so many dates after the first date is filed?
And
I
that's
mean,
what-
like-
I was looking for clarification too.
Yeah, like I filed a grievance with my principal on May 15th. So then after the meeting with my principal on then Terry and I have a meeting on the 20th. So then I don't like what happened, so then I have 15 days or whatever after that to file a step 2, or 18 days, whatever the thing.
Well, for those of us who don't get involved in this, I guess I'm just asking for clarification.
I mean-
Step 1 can be done anytime after an incident.
After an event.
Step 2 has to be done within 18 days of an incident, even if step 1's never been filed, that's.
Yeah, that's
Correct.
crazy.
Correct.
You have
Correct.
to, you have to.
That's the awkwardness.
Yeah, I know, so.
It should be after the first meeting, after the meeting, not after the incident.
But you have to use the incident as the trigger date
Yeah.
to start the entire
Yeah.
process. So
Yeah.
it's, right now, the contract says you have to be to step 2 by the 18th day from the date of the event.
That's crazy.
And that's what's on.
Well, otherwise, what do we do if there's something happens in May? Do we carry it to June, July, August? I mean, it's like, we might never get it resolved.
There's always be a timeline as from incident to step 1.
Right.
And then your step 2 date bounces from step 1
That's
date.
what we're
Yeah.
suggesting.
That makes sense.
But
That makes sense,
But we
that the
can't
step
have it.
2 date has to be from the.
Yeah, we don't want 20, 30 days,
No,
that's
we
what we're
wanna
trying to
make this-
avoid.
we want
Here's
to
what,
press it down.
here's the current system.
In the country.
The contract talks about the incident,
Yep.
18 work days get step 2. Yes. Doesn't actually say work, but we understand.
We know
it's
it's
work
work
days.
understand it's work days.
So we gotta get there. Now, the article before this talks about step 1s. And here's the process, both through language and practice, here's the process. There has to be an incident, and the union requests a step 1 meeting. And then the principal gets back to the union within 5 days to set the meeting. If they don't, I call you, Jim, you get on the phone to the principal, say, don't forget to answer your email. That's all, there's no penalty, there's no one that gets hit with a stick, it's just, but we have 5 days to set a meeting. All right? That meeting could be whenever that meeting is. Now, we're looking at calendars, and we're talking to principals like, okay, I know you want your meeting as soon as possible. What I got Wednesday, I gotta be at the county, and Thursday I'm on vacation, Friday we got to have and we're doing the same thing in the office, right? So whenever we have that meeting, then we have the meeting, and we're gonna tell the principal by contract, they have 5 days, they don't have to tell us right then. They get 5 days to go think about it. 5 days to call you whatever, but they get 5 days to go think about it, right? And in the meantime, I know this incident happened somewhere. Now, really, in order to guarantee that we're fitting this in within, to guarantee that we're getting to step 2
Yes.
within 18 days, the teacher almost has to tell me by like day 2 or 3 or 4. This it happened on a Monday, you better tell me by Thursday.
Right.
And
right.
not
You don't want
everybody does that.
Yeah, I
People
know.
go through a state
Right.
of should I speak up,
There's
should
some
I not speak
anxiety.
up?
Yeah, there's some
Right, do I
anxiety.
want my job, do I not want my job, a manual contract, do I this, that? So they go through that process of thinking about it. All right, but if this gets pushed back, if it's like, okay, 2 weeks later, I'm right, well, shouldn't 2 weeks be enough time to? So I like what Rick said, I think that we should have this time period, whatever it is, should be to get to step 1. And from there, we set in motion, okay, step 1 meeting has to happen within so long, the principal replies within so long, and then you got so long to think about it, then we got step 2.
You let us caucus?
Yeah.
Can I say
Oh, wait, I'm
something?
sorry, yeah, let's get all, why
Yeah,
don't we
yeah,
get all the comments out?
first, and then we caucus.
Go, Michelle.
This, I think one way that we could handle this is to keep step 1 the same, where you have 5 days, but step 2 should say something about you have 18 days or 15 days or 10 days or whatever from the answer from step 1, from the resolution or
Say that
the
again.
verdict of step 1.
Y'all got that?
The
All
step
right.
one.
The red is gonna be proposal, this is how it is in black, but the proposal is something to get to step 2.
All right.
Now, why I wrote 1 numerical and then Roman, I don't know.
Good, all right.
But-
Dan. You all will consider our 10 days, we'll consider your 18, and why don't we caucus for about 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and then we'll come
Okay.
back. Hey, Dan, before we get started, I kind of want to tell you why we caucused a little longer.
All right.
We've got up there what we actually want to share with you all, but I do want you to know, we took some time to look over some of the annual contract language from other districts. So
Okay.
that's what we were in discussion a little bit about that, so I wanted you to know that we're taking that seriously. And we will be back, that's what I wanted, we were spending time looking that over and having a
Okay.
discussion. So I know that was longer than 15 minutes, but I wanted you to know it was 30 minutes well spent because we were really looking at this.
Okay.
All right, what we have in red, because we're using black as what we have as what's in our contract versus you want to put something up there in red and we put something in red. Dan, notice that, I'll start with the end in mind, like a teacher. If you'll look, there's 18 days. So what we've done now is compress this because it still, I think, gets where you all would want to get to a step 2. So let's begin with the incident occurs. There's 7 days between the incident, you file and notify the principal. Then you have 3 days for the principal and for you to set up the meeting. Then you have 3 days for the principal to get a response, and then you have 5 days to file a step 2 grievance. That's a total of 18 days.
Is that your suggestion?
That's our suggestion.
All
And
right.
everything else, step 2 and step 3 stays the same. You can see the same timeline, but what we're getting at is, you had mentioned about 18 days. I can tell you this right now, out of all the principals that I have on my team right now, no principal wants to sit around and stretch this out because they don't want to lose any sleep over this any more than you want to lose sleep over it or our teacher wants to lose sleep over it. In fact, most principals want to meet as soon as possible and try to solve the problems and the issues as soon as possible. I've never in my entire, even when I've been asked by you all to meet in these types of meetings, it's not like I sit around and want to go, wow, I'd like to wait another week or two just to have fun with this. This sounds like a real good time, so let me stretch it out as long as I can. That's just ridiculous. Most principals want to solve the problem immediately, and so you get what I'm saying.
Well, yeah, and I do, and I appreciate that you tried to break that down in days here. The standard response from this union to this district is usually, well, yeah, look at the principles you put on your bargaining team. You all usually are pretty agreeable, but I'm not getting, not only am I gonna give the standard response, which is that I'm sure all of you do wanna get it done, and I do have some that here and there wanna drag some out, but not putting character assault aside. Life doesn't always work out that neatly.
Okay.
People of any character and agreeableness, that's a word,
All right.
agreeableness. People of any character are going to have times when that 3 days, because I know I've had principals that, hey, any one of your principals out there can point to 3 days on their calendar where I just can't meet with the union.
All right, then are you
Okay.
saying that in that second step there, 3 days, step one, meeting held, what day would you, how
Well,
many days would you?
here's what I'm suggesting. I need more than 7 days at the beginning there. You had suggested 10. And we went and caucused and thought, is 10 days fair? The incident
All right.
happens, because at first I said, give me 18 days for the teacher to come and complain.
Right.
And you said, how about 10? And then we went off and caucused, and I'm prepared to come back and say, I think 10 is reasonable.
All right,
Okay? I mean, that was your suggestion, and
Yeah.
I'm ready to come back and say, I think 10 days would be
then
reasonable.
we're okay with 10 days.
Okay?
Yeah.
Now,
We're
from
okay.
there, and from there, we just put in process that the principal sets up a meeting, and then the principal gives us an answer, and then there should be 5 days after that answer that we get to step 2.
So
So I'm okay with
For the
that.
sake of, because I'm visual, do you want to, can you erase my 7
Do
and
we have
go to 10?
another, okay, I'll just erase it. So let's just, sorry about that, because as
Yeah.
we change these things, that
That's
doesn't
right.
change. So let's make that 10.
10?
I mean, that was your suggestion, I'm okay with that?
We're okay.
Just as reality sets in, and I appreciate what you're saying, no one wants to sit as long as we have to, but as reality sets in for both of us, we got 3 union officers, and some schools have 2 administrators, and a whole lot of work to do. All right, so that could be tough.
Okay.
If you want to guarantee in contract language that the principal will set up a meeting within 3 days, that's easier for me to agree to than all your principals.
I can do it.
I think they will.
I can do it.
I don't have to, I'll take a phone call from the principal.
No,
Says I-
no, I take the phone call from the
Okay.
principal.
And I go to principals, and right now, the culture is, you're gonna give me an answer in 5 days, and some of them at 5 days, they call me and they say, I need some more time to think about it. But if you wanna put in contract language, the
3
principal,
days.
the principal shall
They
give an
need to
answer
get
in
it
3
done.
days.
Look at us, you can see us, we're emphatically saying, you're getting it done.
All right. So after that response, now the teacher has 5 days to,
See, we're giving you all more time. We're holding our principals accountable. That's what we're saying. We're giving them 3 days, and if you all need 5 days for file step 2, that means you've got 15 days.
all right?
21.
And then, okay, well, that, okay.
Yeah,
that
15
did-
days that the teacher has.
That did nurse the whole process just got nursed out to 21 days. However, we're not suggesting on day 20 we run and start this. We're
Right,
just-
No.
that's right.
What I think needs to go into the contract language is, teacher has 10 days to bring it to attention
Yes.
of administration. From the time the principal is told, the principal will schedule that meeting within 3 days. And the principal will give an answer within 3 days. And a teacher has 5 days to decide to go to the next step.
You got it.
If necessary.
21 days.
All right. And then for the next article, it's just, if it goes to step 2, it's heard by you, step 3, heard by her,
Yep.
and the rest stays
Yep.
the same.
Yep.
All right, so we'll write up the language and get it to you tomorrow.
All right.
Wait, what?
So Vicki said she'll
I
write up
think
the
he just
language.
got an assignment.
Can you write a letter to
bring it to
No, it's your language to us. Sorry.
It's whose language, who's this?
All right, do you want to craft a language and bring it July 9th?
No, how about, we got a laptop out.
We
we'll
can get
just-
this done.
on
We
the
don't
next-
have a printer.
On the next break, we will type it, we will hook it up to this, whatever this is, and we'll up there on the wall.
All right, your
We'll
team's
use
good.
technology instead of paper.
We have to
Oh, I know.
have.
Vicky'd like 21 days.
No, but we'll get,
Go back to the office
no,
at 6
when-
o'clock.
When we TA this,
Yes, sir.
we'll need actual paper to initial.
Yes, of course.
But to look at it as a group to see if it's right, we could type it and put it up, and so we'll take a break and we'll just type that up,
All right.
and, because there's probably step one language somewhere that'll have to be. Make it something.
Good job,
All right,
good
so we have
job,
TA and spirit, we'll put together language and we'll agree.
good job.
All right, couple things we want to talk about if I may.
All right.
We talked about some things out there too. And I'll move on with some topics here. First of all, we talked about the AC and we talked about some more, and you're gonna
We're
go do
taking
some
that
research
serious,
on that.
Dan. I want you to know, we're taking this stuff serious, so.
Well, thank you. I, just, when we get to writing language,
Okay.
when, positive, when we get to writing language on this, just keep in mind that the part about the actual reappointment, we should mention that they will be notified by the end of the school year. Because technically, we could say if everyone makes it back by 6-day count, well, they got back, right? They were reappointed. But when we say reappointed, we're talking about before they go home for the summer.
It's my intent to have some type of language to you July 9th concerning this annual contract stuff. How's that?
All right.
I'll bring language, you look at it, and you can bring language after, you know what I'm saying? You know how it works.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm telling you, it's come July 9th, we got a lot to talk about. We've got pay for performance, and we're gonna talk about annual contract.
All right. Okay, I want to go back, I want to open up money for a moment, just for information.
All right.
Not for arguing, just for information.
Sure.
All right, because you're gonna go check your checkbook tonight. So you go check that, I just want to put something else out on the table. Plus, I love putting Susan on the spot, so is she over there? All right. By the way, I don't see in your proposal anywhere changes to the health plan. Should I assume that what Susan presented at another board meeting, another bargaining session, should I assume that what she presented at another bargaining session is a formal proposal from the district?
Well,
Is that
It's
what I
a
am to assume?
recommendation from the Superintendent's Insurance Advisory Committee, which goes to the bargaining tables first for
Okay.
consideration.
Okay, well, I asked,
well, let us
We'll
talk
bring
about
that on
that.
July
We'll bring it up,
Okay.
you're saying yes, we'll bring language to you July 9th.
about the health
Insurance.
insurance proposal.
Yes.
Because I say that because we had another bargaining, I mean, I want to tell you why I'm being this specific about it. We had another, in a previous bargaining session, I mean, not this year, years ago. Susan did her presentation, and we accepted, we said, okay, we accept that proposal here at the table. And I was, so wait a second, that was, I said, why did we have her make a nice presentation? I said, well, we're just telling you stuff. And so,
All right.
so,
Yeah, I get it.
so I just want to clarify, so you're telling me that her presentation that she made is not the formal offer yet from the board, or from the district to us?
I'm looking.
All I'm saying is, the committee's recommendation has been presented to the superintendent and is here at the bargaining table for consideration, and that's as far as it's gotten at this
So
point.
in other words, your presentation in PowerPoint is, you would like something more
Well,
Well,
board
like-
speak, I
the
guess,
committee
more-
has
Well,
not.
if you're telling me this is your whole proposal,
No, I get it, all right. we'll bring-
I don't see any changes to the health plan in here.
We'll bring
There's
something
also no
official.
discussion of salary in there, other
Yeah.
than the grandfather
Yeah.
salary
Okay,
schedule,
well,
which we've already
brought-
agreed to.
Well, we brought salary to the
So-
table, so I know salary's out there on the table. And we brought salary to the table, salary is, there's no question that salary is part of these talks, it's already out there.
Tell me what it is that you all want. Are you all saying that you would like something a little bit more detailed, a little bit more specific with what Susan's presentation was,
Well, no, for starters, I want to know if that is
the proposal?
the proposal.
It's the proposal of the insurance committee.
All right.
At this
But
point
that's-
in time.
That's of the committee, not from me.
No, at
Basically,
the
the
committee.
The committee has said, give this to you. The committee has said, give this to Mr. Hickey.
Right.
Give this give this to the bargaining team. And that's our best put together of what we can give at the bargaining table. But you did announce to me at another session, and I'll get to a point here why I'm being difficult,
You're not
okay?
being difficult.
You did, I'll just get warmed up. You're getting ticker-tape over there.
Yeah, I am.
You did announce to me at another, at the last session, you
session.
said, and by the way, Dan, we have good news for you about the health insurance proposal. The board is
contribute.
ready to start the contribution early.
Yes.
I thought, well, that's, okay, that's good news.
We're officially holding to that.
Okay.
So we are.
That's good news.
So
I just
that
wanna-
that is,
So I'll just put out for informational purposes. Talking about money, talking about health insurance altogether. I don't expect an answer, this is for information.
all right.
Like, sounds fairly like a newscaster, right? Wait, I just got this in, We had a insurance meeting within the past week. Susan facilitated, nice meeting. And we, at each of these meetings, we get an update on how the trust fund is doing. And at that meeting, there was the discussion that you had given at the table, by the way, the board's gonna kick in a little bit early, and that answered it's kind of tied up a loose end that we sort of had among that committee of, okay, we see we solved the problem for the end of 2015, but along the way, we had a negative balance on New Year's Day of this year, so we all just kind of thought, well, I wonder what happens with that. And the committee didn't really argue with that, but when you came out and said, okay, the district will start kicking in early, that tied up that loose end, right? Just vernacular, tied up that loose end. So the board essentially is kicking in, or suggesting to kick in 2 million more than what the committee had suggested. Okay? The committee had put together a plan that if this plan all worked out as perfect as, the plan was, at the end of 2015, there would have been a balance in the trust fund, a positive balance of about $1.5 million. Susan could give, I'm sure, the exact specific, but that was the
1.6.
1.6 million. So that was the plan, about 1.6 million left over, but since then, we get this news. I know we'd like to, I'll give you a second, because I get this. Since then, we get this positive news flash that, hey, the board's gonna start kicking in early, so there's 2 million more put into this equation. So there's,
Take your
Are you
take
trying to
break.
make my life?
so
I'll
there's,
listen to Dan.
so there's this possibility of 3.5 million now, because the board's gonna start kicking in 2 million early. All right? Added to that, good news, at Susan's update, there was every time you have an update, there's a revised projection from the consultants that tell you where we're going, right? And they might, are they getting their notes ready, passing down here to me? And they basically said, we might be coming out a little bit ahead of schedule. They had a revised projection. And I think their revised projection put us at an additional $2 million potentially of good news.
Can I
I'm
add
looking
one
over at
little
you.
thing to that?
Yeah, please, do. I'm hoping you will, yeah.
All I want to add to that is if they had done this a year ago, we would have been in a different place than we ended up at the end of 2013. As you also know, what happened in 2013 with the catastrophic claims happened late in the year. So, yes, you're correct. We're looking closely every month at the and rerunning the numbers. So so far it is positive, but we don't know what the rest of the year is gonna look like. So we put that big fat caveat out.
Right, Susan does a good job of explaining every number you see for the future is just a projection. It's a best, yes,
It is.
it's what it's more than hope, it's more than just good faith and hope, it's based on something. But the closer you get to it, the more exact you're gonna be. And the further out you try to project, the less likely you're gonna be.
May I just
Right.
ask a question so that I don't have to keep giving Jim sticky notes?
Go ahead.
You said 2 million,
Yeah,
the
where'd you
board's
get the
gonna
2
put in.
million?
Where'd you get that number? I don't remember us saying a
I
number.
thought, okay, well, I'm glad you're clarifying that, because
We didn't throw a number out.
Yeah, we did say.
Okay, I thought that was the value, we were talking dollars, and you were putting a price on my old proposal. I thought that was the value of the board kicking in, $70 per month, but starting in August instead of January. Is my-
All employees, it's like 3.1 million.
Oh.
All employees.
All employees.
And isn't it July 1,
We
June?
did- We didn't, from July 1 to December
Okay.
31, for those 6 months, to your point.
So I was wrong then on the,
It's three.
Yeah, we were just unsure
Okay.
about where you got the 2 million.
okay, then, well, thanks for clarifying that, okay. So the plan was to kick in, apparently, newsflash, so the plan was to kick in 3.1 million from the board, which would certainly make sure we have a positive balance come New Year's, right? Given that, I mean, we were worried about a $1.9 million deficit. Then we get good news from the consultants that it might not really be a $1.9 million deficit, because we're not on that bad pace, although Susan's right, a catastrophe could happen anytime, it's the nature of catastrophes, right? And last year there were, what, a half dozen at the end of the year, right? But, as the board kicks in all that money and the projection's better than we thought, it's possible that New Year's 2016, the plan might be stronger than we had originally projected. When Susan gave that whole scenario at the first bargaining session, we were looking at $1.6 million for New Year's Day 2016.
Let me double check, but I believe you're right.
We were looking at $1.6 million for New Year's Day
A year and a half from now.
2016, right. Let me just, if I may, because I'm gonna lose
Yeah.
track of what I'm.
Based on, yes, 1.6 million at 12/31.
Okay,
15.
12/31/15, when Susan made that presentation, this was the guess.
And that was based on the numbers the committee was presented when you started your deliberations.
Right.
At the
And-
beginning of your deliberations.
since
That was
then-
in February.
Right. Since then, Jim, you gave us good news, and I just had it
Right. We gave 3.1.
clarified that the board wants to help us 3.1 million. And there's the potential, Willis said the projection is a little bit better.
For
Right.
when? End
Right.
of this year?
They said the end of this year, we would, rather than looking at a $1.9 million deficit, we might be looking at a,
One and change million in the black.
one and change in the black. So instead of almost 2 million to the negative, we might be $1 million to the positive.
Well, that's my recollection, Dan. I'd have to go get
Okay.
the numbers to confirm it.
Potentially 3 million, if it's 1 point to the black instead of 1.9 to the red, that's potentially a $3 million turnaround.
And that's based on our actual pay through April.
So there's the potential we could be setting up. Jim, here's where this is all going. At some point, I gotta get to the point here.
Yeah.
The health plan might be in better shape than we thought. Okay? And I know on the salary end of things, that you already said you're not ready to counter proposal, but I know on the salary end of things, I gave a big,
You
a
gave
big
8.8.
ask. Yeah, I gave 8.8.
Yep.
I know I gave a big number, and some stomachs started to churn. And I started talking about not shifting capital, and I started talking about finding some attrition dollars, and I gave a big thing, and y'all busted out the my lane, so it goes, here goes Dan. I'm just suggesting that if you're trying to find some money to make that offer happen, because I am asking you to step out from where you might be most comfortable.
Okay.
If you're trying to find some money, I'm considering some of that board contribution, you know,
3.1?
the next year and a half of board contribution, I'm just suggesting that that might be a place that you might want to look for some. You came back from a caucus last time and said, Dan, where do you think that money's gonna come from, right? Because I spent more than you had suggested. And I said, you've got transfer to capital that you could postpone, and then we're all gonna rally around this half penny. I said, there's attrition dollars in the salary schedule that fall the surplus line, and we could commit to those dollars staying in salary. And I'm just pointing out a third source right here, where the board might be able to amend its offer so that the health insurance doesn't go up as much. Because that proposal that Susan came with was $70 a month per employee. Pre-tax dollars, of course, but that proposal might be able to be amended. Because we were living with that $1.6 million number. If there's a projection that could be 7.8 million, some of those dollars of board contribution might be able to go towards the salary schedule somehow. If we're trying to make the union offer work. That's all. That was just all for information.
Okay.
I'd like to offer you a TA, by the way, on your packet. No, not the whole thing, just on the third page.
Oh, okay, well, hold on, Judy wanted to say something.
Oh.
We'll go to the third page. No, she didn't say first.
I figured-
Get the TA, then let Judy speak. Let's just keep it on.
We didn't have
Let's let
anything
Judy
else to talk about,
We'll
do
do
we?
a third page. All right.
Y'all win the,
You're gonna really send me off on my vacation if you TA.
Right.
yeah. We tell you all, we're done.
You're funny.
I'll take 2 weeks vacation. right?
There we go.
Take it.
All right, so Judy?
Okay, I just want to make sure that I'm understanding the numbers.
I don't know that I
That you didn't write
understand.
anything next to your third number.
Which third number?
The third number down
Oh.
was what you were talking about, I believe, for December 31 of 14. That it was supposed to be better than what had originally been
Correct,
estimated.
correct. The report from Willis, as they were looking at monthly claims coming in, and again, it's all preamble by, it's a guess, it's a projection, it's a best educated thing that we can do, was that instead of ending the year on a negative 1.9 million, they said you might actually land on a positive about $1 million.
And I can confirm that tomorrow.
Okay, thanks.
I didn't bring all that with me.
It was a positive, it was a possibly above that. And so that made us think, said, maybe the board, so I mean, maybe the plan isn't just gonna hit 0 and bankrupt and go into negative.
Well,
You
it
know,
can't go into negative.
Right, it can't, right, you can't start,
Cannot.
I know, you can't start bouncing checks to.
This side of the table can't let that
Right, I
happen.
get, and I hear that, but I think that's why the board was jumping into action, saying, well, okay, y'all made a plan so that we finish next year okay, but along the way to your plan, we can't go bouncing checks. And so you said, let's start putting in money sooner. If that projection holds firm, and you put in money sooner, then we could actually be finishing this year $4 million in the surplus. And I'm just
Okay,
suggesting
but
that
we're still not where we're supposed to be actuarially.
Right, I was
So
gonna
how
say,
do
the
we-
law
Well,
says that
How
we're
do
supposed
we,
to have.
how do we address that? And I'm fairly sure that Susan shared with you the scare that we had
Right.
in the Office of Insurance Regulation, because they didn't like the letter that I wrote them this year. There's been a change in leadership,
Right.
and they are back to the law. Incoming revenues covering outgo expenditures plus your 60 days. Well, your 7.8 million falls
Because we're supposed to get 10 million, right?
well, it's really probably closer to
We'll
11 million.
just so we know, and again, Susan's very good at the disclaimers and the just so we know, it's a recommendation.
Mhm.
It's the Office of Insurance, they're gonna keep an eye on it, they're gonna make a recommendation, they might make a even
Well,
firmer
They actually
recommendation.
could take steps to shut us down.
Okay, well, they're not, but fortunately, they.
Fortunately, they're not, yes,
Well, here's the thing.
They like the recommendations made
Sus-
by the insurance.
Susan gave the right, Susan gave us a report.
And we talked to them on a conference call.
And I heard that,
Yep.
and it was to the rescue, and we appreciate that, it was.
The point is, though, that they could do, if we don't pull this out, they could come next year and they could do the very same thing to us, and they could say, you don't have your 60 days in reserve.
And
The
we'll-
7.8 million, if that should come to fruition, Dan, like you have on the board, I wish it would. Because at least we'd be well on our path to getting back to a 60-day reserve.
Well,
Still
here's,
wouldn't be there.
here's where I'm going with this. They did their yearly concern, they presented their yearly concern,
That's why.
and Susan and you and whoever else on a conference call gave them their he gave the plan, gave a suggestion, said, here's where we're gonna take the bargaining table, we're taking steps. And apparently that appeased them for that phone call at least, till the next letter, right? And that plan was the plan that Susan presented to us.
Yes.
And that plan called for a $1.6 million ending at the end of 15, and that made them happy. Now,
Mostly it made them, I'm sorry, Dan.
it made them satisfied for the
Mostly it
moment,
made them
right?
happy because at the end of 15, revenue would be exceeding slightly expenses.
We get back to the point where we're growing our reserves.
Well, and the operation would be self-sustaining based on the incoming revenue and the expenses. Right now, as you know, every month, the revenue recurring is lagging expenses.
Correct.
This puts it the other way around. That's what they were happy with.
Right. What I'm getting at is that if that 1.6 was satisfactory, and there's the potential of 7.8 million, the potential, not a guarantee, right? If there's the potential of that, perhaps there's a number less than 7.8, but more than 1.6, that we could say we could aim to land on that, and there might be a few million that could be skimmed out of board contributions or employee contributions that could go back into the salary schedule. And I just went down that road because I admit that when I made that proposal at the last time, well, I'd spent more than you had cared to put on the table at the moment. So I just wanted to offer that as another source, because I know sometimes we're creative in pulling things here to make something happen. So
I get
that's
it,
all
I
that
get it.
was.
I would have one more question. At what point would you, down the road, because you've been sitting on the insurance advisory committee for a long time, at what point down the road would you see that we would meet the letter of the law? I mean, at what point do we have incoming revenue covering outgoing expenses plus a 60-day reserve? At what point will we get back to that stage in your mind, or have you thought about that?
I think that's a.
Because it does have to come over time.
I'm going to take that as a personal question, that I don't know that BFT as a union has a stand on what you all should be doing to meet the law. And I know we're part of discussing how to meet the law, but the law is with the district and the self-insured. But my personal opinion on that is that as long as we have a plan where the revenue is at least covering the expenses, and we're incrementally increasing the revenue as the expenses incrementally, you know, as long as we're not losing money, I would say that's acceptable. And if anybody says, where are your reserves? Well, that's that board contingency line 972 of the budget. I made up the 972, did I hit it?
And
But
the
that's-
fact that we're not meeting the letter of the law, even with your proposal on the board. You
Well, every
understand that,
year
right?
you do meet the letter of the law by saying we have it in board contingency, and that's why they don't shut us down.
No, they basically have kind of bent the rules, so to speak, by approving this. But this new leadership went back to pointing us directly back to what the law says. That's
Right.
why I was asking. I mean,
Well, then-
because at some point, I think we all agree, we wanted to be financially sound, and we wanted to get back to where it once was.
Well, then I will
So-
speak for the union then. I took the chicken way out by speaking for Dan, but I will speak for the union then. The Office of Insurance Regulation is under the leadership of the governor, so all we need is a new governor, and that fixes that problem.
Well, unless they change the law, the new governor, if there was one, could just appoint somebody else that,
And he'll
again, says you
appoint-
gotta follow the statute.
He'll appoint somebody more better.
Mo better.
Mo better.
Could I just
Well, all
ask
right.
a quick question? Susan,
The
will
union
we
line is
have-
when you new governor.
Will we have the June expenditures from the healthcare trust before we meet on July the 9th?
I don't know if they'll be closed out officially, but we'll have the raw data certainly. And
I just
then Bonnie
asked-
will have an idea of what it's looking like. We'll know if we have any catastrophic claims or anything unusual.
Myself,
And see, I asked that, Dan, only because last year, June was a terrible, terrible month for the health insurance trust fund. So I love
Mhm.
Willis's new projections. I mean, I think it's
Do we,
awesome. But about May
Like
last
those
year,
two.
I kind of took my eye off the insurance radar because I thought, oh, it's going okay. And then it just kind of blew up.
Well,
And we just have to be sensitive
Well,
to
we
I can
always,
speak to
we
that.
always expect summer
Yeah,
to be
Susan-
bad.
Susan
What
always
was
says
really
this.
bad last year were months we didn't expect to be
Right.
really bad.
Every teacher waits till summertime to take those surgeries.
For voluntary.
Voluntary surgeries, you've always pointed out that that's where we always take a big hit.
But last year, we had a 41% increase in the numbers of catastrophic claims. That's claims 75,000 or greater, paid claims, up 41%. I mean, that's just gonna kill you.
Well, to then get us back on track, Dan has asked us to, one, bring language that officially puts our proposal for insurance across, our proposal across the table, which we'll bring July 9th. You've asked us to consider this. You've asked us to, if we're looking for an additional source of money to be able to meet your 8.8 mil proposal, this is a source where you're saying that we might be able to look. Not
Right.
have to do it, but it's a place.
That's
we
just to
might-
give an answer to your question. I don't get to direct from over here
Right.
where your money comes from.
I get it.
But you gave a challenge last time. You were honest with me. You said, Dan, well, you spent a little more than we really were planning to
That's
spend.
right.
So where do you think you can do it? So I gave you a couple answers last time. And then when I went to Susan's insurance meeting, I thought, hey,
There's
that
more.
might be another opportunity. But as far as where, I mean, I'm not telling you where it comes from,
Well,
but if
for
you.
clarification, are you suggesting that the $140 total amount be changed or distributed differently?
Well, once the proposal's on the table, we could look at that any
Right,
way
we
we
haven't put a
want.
proposal across yet.
If it's not as much salary ultimately for teachers, but it's less of a premium increase, we could look at that. We could, if
Okay.
if it is enough salary and all the premium and the board doesn't contribute as much so that they could put it in the salary, I mean, we'll have all sorts of options. This is
Okay.
the preview for July 9th. Everybody tune in July 9th. You're gonna get high ratings that, you're gonna have high ratings that day. I'll be on vacation. Let me know how it goes.
No, you won't.
Oh, no, I'll be here. I'm just teasing. I'll be here.
Okay, we'll look at page 3.
Yeah, section M.
Section M.
Section
If
M.
that is an offer, well, I'll TA both of those little sections there.
Section M miscellaneous,
Yeah, we've,
you're saying then the effective with the 2014 school year, all teachers will be assessed the $8
Yeah.
annual fee?
that seems to be an annual tradition.
All right,
And then I like, for assignments, that you're gonna make every effort not to change the assignments and the preps and the rooms, so
okay,
essentially you're crossing out 13, 14 and
all right.
making that perpetual, so I'll TA both. I'm just gonna take your copy you gave me and write my name on it.
All right. So, what about the grandfather schedule? It's there. Did we TA it? I don't think we.
I mean, that is the grandfathered schedule. You're
Right.
welcome to send that into the state. That's just, it is what it is.
We didn't, I don't think we have officially passed that we TA'd that. And you had said that verbally, you'd like to accept our grandfather's.
Yeah, you know what you know, we talked about, well, first of all, the state has it because the last thing the last contract we got, we said that's the grandfather schedule, go ahead and tell the state. So
Right.
if you didn't tell the state yet, tell them, because we already agreed last time.
So we're.
But what I think needs to happen with there is we need to explain that this is the schedule for placement, and I think the years need to go back on there for some kind of, it's the placement salary schedule. Even the law says teachers shall be placed on a grandfathered salary. You have to know. I think it's been confusing since you took that
Well,
out.
then why don't you bring us language of what you think that ought to look like?
Okay.
And then we'll talk about that.
All
Okay?
right.
All right. So you wanna, Rick, do you mind going over and getting, you're gonna sign that in? We'll TA it?
Oh, you sent it over, what are we gonna,
Barry's not here.
what are we gonna call him? Oh, Barry was, what, messenger boy?
Senior poster boy.
Senior?
Senior poster boy?
Well,
There you go. Oh,
I was gonna say,
Section
can't be years, then you have to start cleaning up years. M10 and
there you go,
M12.
if he wants to initial that, all right, well, we got something done.
I think I have this done.
Yeah, that's already,
With the years properly.
oh, okay. But okay, well, you said, yeah, well, yeah, okay, if you send that. to
Because I
me, we'll
came
look
up
at it.
with it
Mhm.
for when people call.
That's yours. Oh, that's the, that's when the state is crawling all over your school. Thank you, oh, thank you. Who's this guy? Oh, Jim. And then I got a big one for you. All right. Page 1,
Yeah.
36. There's no apostrophe in veterans.
Is what?
Veterans, if there is, it's after the S. And move your apostrophe over, or else get rid of it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I see it.
How's that for a detail?
We'll fix it.
Either that or pick your veteran.
So pick one lucky veteran that gets honored on that day.
Here's my lucky veteran.
I want to pick my daddy, sorry.
Yeah. All right, do we have another, do you want to bring another topic from your list? You want me to bring one from mine?
You shoot.
All right. Actually, let me give some credit where credit's due. 1, 2, 3, the fourth one on our list. Oh, I'm sorry, you don't have this typed up thing here. But we made a priority for a reduction in standardized testing. And I'm gonna consider that one addressed already by the board. The board took some action on that based on some district put together there, so I'm gonna check that one off. Say we did a good job on that. All right, I've got one, minimize interruptions to teaching time. Faculty input for activities. Jim, we're in the day right now where, we're in the day and age right now where every teacher is getting evaluated on specifically the subject that they teach. It's getting more and more a sore point among teachers and faculties when there is an hour or two carved out of the day for special assemblies at the school, where the principal creates an activity and goes up, makes an assembly, pulls the kid out. It's getting tough when principals schedule a homeroom. We've got secondary schools that they're scheduling like a 45-minute homeroom, some once a week, some twice a week. And it's not to say that character development isn't important, not to say that rule following isn't important, not to say that an hour of announcements isn't important. But teachers want more say in that, if that's okay, because we're getting the calls in the office that I'm losing my time teaching time. And the kid is taking a specific end-of-course exam on my class. So I want to put that out there, maybe we get some discussion about that and figure out how we could address that.
All right, well, I've obviously been a principal before. I would never, ever in my entire life, never heard of a principal scheduling an assembly during an end-of-course exam or during the FCAT or something like that. Tell me what,
I meant all year long, I meant on a year-long basis. They'll have a once-a-week homeroom or a twice-a-week homeroom or an activity period sometime during the day where all kids are getting out of Spanish today and we're going to somewhere else.
okay. How-
And those teachers are saying, I need the teaching time.
And tell me, from a standpoint of a manager's point of view, what it would look like when you say teacher input. What does that look like to a manager? Does that mean a consensus, all teachers vote? Or committee? Or how does it roll out?
I'll start, but then I want to open it up to people. Oh, yeah, Debbie's next, but I want to open it up to people. I would say some kind of leadership team that here's the idea, here's out the principal, or maybe even creates it themselves, talks about is there the need for this, but then it goes to the faculty for some kind of approval. If we're going to have a block of time to do this every week, I would want faculty approval of that, because it's their evaluations.
A lot of
Yeah,
times,
Debbie.
that, because we're on block, a lot of times, a lot of times our assemblies are voluntary.
They're what? They're
Are voluntary. If you want to send your students, if you want to not if you want to send your students, if you want to participate in this activity, and, so
Now, is that for student being volunteer, or if the teacher
the
wants to?
teacher wants to. This author is coming to
Okay.
This author is coming to the
Speak.
school to speak, if you want your English class to participate, this person is coming to present this for the social studies department, if you want to participate. So
does that
that
solve the
gives,
problem?
huh?
Does
Well,
that
that
solve
solves
the
our, I'm just saying, at our school, not all
Is this an
principals.
elementary or is it secondary?
Secondary.
It's a secondary?
I mean,
More,
that,
more so secondary where we're on a 7-period day, and let's say every Wednesday, we're gonna
and that,
take 10 minutes out of each class, and that's gonna be homeroom. And teachers are looking at homeroom and going, you know what, I'd rather have the 10 minutes of instruction time back in each class than whatever that was for homeroom.
and that's just the assemblies that Dan's talking about. That's not being pulled for fair testing, when they should, that's not being pulled for the different, and that's not when they're being pulled from my class to do something that, or that's not when they're being pulled from algebra to do, something done for reading. That's not when they're being pulled from reading to have something done for, geometry, or, if you understand what I'm saying. They are pulled from one core class to have something done for another core class, and that happens regularly.
And the administrators instructing you to do that?
Sometimes they are, yeah, especially for fair testing, especially for fair testing. If,
Fair testing's required though.
I understand that, but
So there's no voting on
there's no voting on that,
whether
but.
that would happen or
We'd
not.
vote down fair testing.
I mean,
I understand that, I'm just saying that if they're in algebra and you're teaching an algebra class and they have to take a fair test,
they have to take it.
they have to take it, I understand that, it's still frustrating as an algebra teacher. David, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
I would certainly have empathy, and guess what? It's frustrating on an administrator's side having to administer that test.
Oh, yeah.
I would love to be able to say, yeah, no fair testing, and let's just do away with the whole caboodle, but I don't get that authority to do that, so. David, what's going on?
It's just not your core classes, but it's your electives too. Students are being pulled out of elective classes to make up work, for example, and they're gonna have their EOCs. Those are coming up. They have to be prepared when they're going to high school. I'm talking from a middle school perspective.
Can I, David, I used to work where you
Yeah.
where you teach. Are you saying that teachers are asking you to allow a kid to come out of class to be able to make up work? Is that what you're referring to? 'Cause I
Now,
don't
I'm
think
referring
that's
to
administrative
things like a
training.
no-zero zone, things like that, to make up work. And, well, where can we pull the students from? When can we have these meetings and so forth with a student? And a lot of times they're coming out of electives. And these elective teachers, they have to hit their marks too.
But is that an administrative directive that we're telling kids that they have to come out of their electives to go back to their core class to make up homework? Is that what we're talking about here? Or is this a teacher saying, hey, look, David, can I have, little Jimmy Hickey because he's not making up his work and I need him if it's okay with you?
No, but nobody would do that to me. But, this is elective teachers having their kids pulled to either makeup testing. Let's say it's fair testing. Let's just say
Right,
makeup for
that's
fair testing.
required.
We'll pull them out of art. We'll pull them out of PE, whatever the case may be. And so we go ahead
We
and
have
do
time
that.
within the 6.5-hour day, though, to do that. I'm not sure from a principal standpoint and from a former, test coordinator standpoint at the school level, that's an impossible task. I only have a finite amount of time also, just as the teacher has a finite amount of time, so there's not a great time for that.
So what happens when these students, though, are pulled out of class and the teacher is being evaluated based on, are they teaching to the standards? Are they getting these kids prepared? And then they walk into high school, what do you mean that you weren't taught this? while I was out doing this.
My understanding of it was that the elected teachers were hit a little bit harder with this because
yeah.
you're right, the testing does have to be done, or the zero, no zeros policy, but they're specifically pulling from electives, which would make sense to us to not pull from common, or from core areas, but then those elected teachers are going, hey, I'm gonna be facing EOCs now, if I'm gonna be accountable to this, you can't keep taking them from my space anymore. So
I
it,
think that, Jen, you just defined it. It's the worry that the elective teachers have that they are considered second-class type, their curriculum is considered second class, and that people can pull them from my classes and protected core subject areas, yet now I'm gonna be responsible and even held accountable for an EOC.
but then there's also the issue that there are things like these homeroom classes that are going on where teachers are frustrated that instructional time is being taken and they have no say in it. They would prefer to just keep the days as per normal, and their kids are being taken for, I mean, it's a variety of things, like the drug-free things. They do presentations and things on that, but the teachers are frustrated that instructional time is being taken for it.
There are actually two, I'm sorry.
I mean, I've run a high school, run a middle school. Would you consider that there are some extracurricular activities, though, that I would say are sacrosanct or part of
The experience.
the overall experience, like a pep rally?
Oh,
Would we
yeah,
agree
Friday.
would we agree that those things are part of what, goes into an experience that most kids have when they go to school? Would you not consider that maybe listening to a guest speaker, an author, might be considered important? What I'm getting at is this, there are many things that we could all say are important, and some people could say, well, they're not important. But I think where Dan was going with it, that there needed to be a committee that would vet those, maybe decide with a little input, with teacher input, committee, along with administration, working together, and decide what's important versus this is just frills and thrills, and it's nice if in flush times we could do this, but we can't do this. Input.
I think we ferreted out two issues there.
I know,
And
that's what I'm
one-
saying, I think there's two issues here.
Yeah.
One is the overall, what's the scope, what's my calendar look like, and how many interruptions will I introduce to the faculty and, invite kids in on with guest speakers and pep rallies and things like that, versus the issue that David and Sandy and Jen were speaking about, and that is the pressure that's placed on elective teachers to pull kids out for makeups. Whatever makeup may be, fair testing, FCAT testing, no zero zone, etc.
And I think we found those. I think there are some schools out there. It's a minority of schools, but it's not just two. I didn't just bring this to you because I'm targeting, some principal out somewhere. Now, there are several schools out there that just have it as part of their culture, a shortened day. Some of them are on 2 shortened days. Some of them, I think, have a shortened day every day of the week. Or, excuse me, yeah, every day is a shortened day. They have a homeroom every day. And that school isn't coming to mind right now, but I know there's at least one out there that has like a 20-minute homeroom every day. So they have an 8-period day.
A secondary school?
Yeah.
All right.
Have a good one of them's a homeroom. This is our 15 or 20 minutes for something.
That's when they're doing announcements or something
There could be
like that?
announcements or handouts or something up on the screen to watch, or sometimes administration will drop in a character building somewhere or
20
other, or
minutes.
drug-free zone or something.
Minutes.
And I know when the teachers at that school realize, oh, we're different? So wait a second, I could use those, even if it's just divide by 7, even if it's 3 minutes a day, I could use those 3 minutes a day in my thing, because 3 minutes times the week, times the semester, times the thing, that's another 10 hours of instruction,
All right,
or whatever it is.
well, all right, you've given me something to think about here. What I would suggest is this.
I'm sorry. I thought Deborah was,
I'm wondering if maybe this is something we want to get a subcommittee for, or either ask the superintendent's advisory council in September or in August when they meet to tackle as a topic, or is it something we want contract language for? Or is this something maybe we want to come to some kind of agreement that says administrators and teachers at their schools will collaborate on what these things look like? I don't know.
Well, this is where I would go with it. Dan, is that since you all are raising this concern, bring us some language. We'll start with language, and then if we need to go, if we feel like we need to put it in contract, we will. If not, then we can maybe go with committee.
Well, I'm thinking one piece of language, we'll see if we can maybe agree on principle before we go
Right,
try to actually
right,
craft it.
right.
But for addressing those homerooms, I almost would want to say standing homerooms, would be approved by the faculty during pre-planning. Let the principal come out and make a case, here's what we want to do, here's why I want to do this, and just put it to a vote. If we approve it, we approve it. And I almost want to say, one of our goals we're trying to push for is really that after we make a decision to try something, we revisit that decision. I don't know if that necessarily has to be in language, but I'd almost say that, okay, are we gonna have a homeroom in this school or not?
Is
Well,
that
I wanna-
probably already built into the master schedules for some of the secondaries?
No, what I wanted to ask Jane, because Barry's not here, I don't want to, when you speak about homerooms, tell me a little bit about the elementary schedule. Is homeroom, I know kids stay, I think, or students, excuse me.
Now,
stay.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean homeroom in the sense like third grade, we all have our homeroom teacher, then we might go
Okay.
different
That's
places.
what I'm trying to
Somebody
get at.
walked
Tell
in
me
there,
about the
mentioned all that.
elementary
I wasn't
experience.
trying to get into that, I meant secondary. You've got your 7 classes you have to take,
Right.
right, your English, your math,
And
your
then
all
they
that stuff.
actually ring a bell and you go to a different
And
teacher
then
for a
s-
homeroom?
And then you'll do that. Some of them have it one day a
Secondary
week,
level?
some of them have 1 day a week, some have 2 day a week, some of them are starting to structure that this is your homework makeup time, or missing
Oh my
assignment
God.
makeup time. Some of them have, this is my tutoring time, my mentoring time. And I get the calls from resentful teachers, especially when administration adds another one. Hey, we've been doing 1, now we're gonna do 2.
David, you
And teachers say, wait a second, I'm getting graded here on how my kids do on my instruction.
And a lot of teachers come to me because of my position on the union, and sometimes it's things like your mutual accountability teams they're being pulled, so you'll have a shortened day. So you bring a bell, they're gonna go to a different room. It's, as Dan was saying, mentoring programs. Now, all this stuff is very important, but there's a time squeeze going on, and there's a standard squeeze. It's very tight trying to get in everything that needs to be done. For example, I teach civics, and civics EOC is it comes very early in the year. I gotta hit all my marks before that time. So, anyway, that's where this is coming from.
I think we've
So
defined
perhaps-
it. We've got to go by, we've got to keep this straight there. We've got 2 issues here. Elective teachers, right? There are elective teachers who are feeling put upon because kids are being pulled out of their class for certain makeups or volunteering to go to no zero zone or something along those lines. But then we have the overall master schedule or the scheduling of special presentations. But it sounds like to me, David, you're describing something that's more of an infrastructure. It's design, the actual design of how things are going to be implemented at your school. They're pulling kids out systematically, right? It's a design piece.
Not necessarily always at my school, but there have been instances, yes, at my school, but at other schools too in the central area, where students are being pulled out. And the classes that they will pull them out of, most of the time is an elective class. And these elective teachers, again, are feeling, as you said, like they're second class. Their subjects really don't matter. For FCAT testing, kids are being moved all over the place in this district. We have to test in here, so this class had to pick up and move.
I don't think I can solve that, though, Dave. That's logistically going to be not something I get into and put into a contract. What I'm saying is, why don't y'all just bring us some language? You've got 3 or 4 things there that I think that you need to separate and decide which which are most important.
I think I'm gonna give you language, and we'll first give it to you, but something about faculty input on those secondary homerooms.
Okay.
And we give you some sort of language about maybe a school-based focus group committee to make sure that we're not unfairly targeting. And that could be for all schools, but just make sure we're not unfair, not unfairly, but unequally targeting elective classes or any particular class.
Dig into,
Well, you know, we have language in the contract already about duties
We
being
do.
rotated and fair and
Yes.
equitable, something like that,
you might
perhaps.
be
Okay,
able to get.
some kind of
Here's the
committee.
one thing, though, that I can tell you right now, I will listen to everything and I will read everything, but I would do not waste your time bringing something to us that says something about standardized testing and all of that. You know what I'm saying.
Eliminate.
We are governed by FCAT, fair testing, EOCs, AP exams. I could run down the litany of things that we have to do. And you know what, we're gonna have to pull kids out, we're gonna have to put them in labs, and yeah, we may have to move teachers because they may be in a spot where we need to test, because they have a larger room than maybe another teacher down the hallway that only has 13 desks.
Yeah, I don't know that that's
That
even the
stuff,
biggest,
I-
yeah, I think
I'm-
teachers get that. I'm not really getting
Yeah.
phone calls that, you know, the kid had to take fair. I do
But that's
wanna,
what David was alluding to, that,
well, but we gotta figure out a way to do it equitably then. If we have to take, you know, some time, we just need to make sure we're finding a fair way to.
And we are all in this boat together as far as the testing goes. If they're testing for a civics EOC and they missed it, we might have to pull out of another class for them to take the civics EOC. So we are all gonna be in the boat together, and we all benefit from the testing. And so we all have to make
Yeah.
those sacrifices.
all right,
Okay,
I'm with you.
we'll get you some ideas
All
for
right.
some language.
My turn.
Your turn? All right,
I see you over there looking at your list,
I got you.
jump in here, man.
I got another one.
I know you do, I got. All right, did you,
Yeah, I know.
Sorry.
take a look at Article 5,
Finish a page.
union rights.
Union rights.
Yeah, union rights.
Which one of
It's a
us
very
would-
short one, Dan.
Which one of us would you like to eliminate?
I want to keep all three of you.
Did you
That's what
have-
I'm saying, I want to keep
did
all
you have
three
in
of
mind
you.
which
You've got a
one you'd
fourth
like
one
to
out
do?
there that I don't know about, unless you want to have it, but, you know,
Any particular reason? I mean, we don't have that fourth spot filled. We have in the past. It's been a while,
It has
before
been a
I was in
while.
office, but we have had four in the past.
well, I think it has to do with having somebody out on leave for a full year, and,
Oh, we forgot the leave papers. This one.
I have mine.
Oh, you have yours, yeah.
I turned Richard's in.
you mean to tell me I'm borrowing somebody that's not on?
Jim will be having two next year.
No,
Do I really don't have it in here, I don't think.
would you consider it?
And
How's
I
that?
even
You don't have to do
reminded-
anything, would you consider it?
So are you going back to
He's a little
Space Coast next
distracted
year?
right now.
Yeah, he is distracted right now, where's that?
That's
lady?
why
looking
fourth
for-
part on.
About that July 9th meeting.
Sure we'll work something out, Dan.
All right.
I don't know.
Hmm.
That's-
Anyway, consider it.
All right, I just wonder if there was a particular, if I remember right, I think we actually brought that to you all a couple of years ago. And so we don't need four, we need three, and y'all argued with us and said, no, we're keeping it four. Or somehow it didn't end up in the contract.
I don't think I've ever remembered you all, I've been on this board 8 years.
So Rhonda pretty quick said, yeah, right?
Way,
we
way
did.
long time ago. It was a give on our part
To go to,
to just leave it at 4. We're like, we'll leave it at 4.
okay, I don't,
We could clean up the first page then.
Yeah, go ahead and
I mean,
change, and it's all done.
yeah. I don't ever remember you all having four, but,
Oh, that was a long time.
I was gonna say, it was long preceded before me, you've always had three.
We only had four for like 2 years.
Mhm.
Wasn't very long.
is there any reason that's it?
Well, if we had someone who was elected to a state office, we would need four.
But we have that in another piece of our contract, right?
No?
By law, yeah.
I mean,
teacher-
a union, state union office.
Oh, state union office, we gotta keep it. Really? I mean, like with,
Like if you became FEA president.
Oh, good lord. Yeah, I'll TA that for you. Where's the poster boy?
Send it
Oh,
over.
that's fun.
Hey, we finished a page.
Yay.
But that person's.
Take a break.
Yeah.
You wanna take a break?
That'd be good.
Okay,
Let's take a break.
Jim?
Yeah, hold on.
Jim, I'm gonna TA after the break, because I'm suddenly getting,
Oh, she wants to talk about it.
yeah, I get ticker tape, but I get it in my ear, I don't get it.
All right, all right.
I get ticker tape.
Take a
in my ear.
break, take a break. 15 minutes, we'll come back at 4:12.
Yeah.
Okay, yes, we're ready, we're ready.
We're ready.
What do y'all say? Y'all want?
Jim, I don't know if you saw me on the way out the door, I did my impression of a sugar cube in an ant pile. I'm gonna ask that you, give
An explanation.
give me a reason.
All right.
Give me some reason,
All right.
please.
As many of you all know, we're going before the voters in November for absent sales tax. There may be the perception among some of those voters that they don't view unions as, something that they consider good for whatever reasons, okay?
For protecting the middle class.
There you go.
Okay, Debbie,
For whatever reasons, yeah, we won't get into, remember, we're on tape, so for whatever reasons. It might be better for the union and for the board to be able to say that we have 3 officers, executive officers, whom, no, we don't pay your all's salaries, but we do have to pay to replace your all's spot through teacher salaries when you all are out doing union work. You get what I'm saying, Jim? In other words, when you guys are out on leave, we're still holding your spot, but somebody else is teaching in your spot, and we're paying for them. And to have 4 might be perceived as a little bit more excessive, and for those people who don't like unions, they're saying, well, geez, you know what, if those union people want to be out on leave, they need to pay for it, and we don't need to save their spot, and the school board's asking for a half-cent sales tax. Just might be an easier sell for all of us if we just, because we do have you all, just 3, we've never ever used 4, that we just get that off the books, get it to where it's cleaned up, and it represents what it is that we're truly doing, not what we say that we might do. Does that make any sense? Do you have any questions, concerns?
I'm gonna let my team speak to that. If they have any questions, feel free to.
I personally don't think that there's a lot of people that even investigated that much in depth as to how you just explained it. I mean, if there are, I'm sure there are people out there that do.
They do.
But I can't imagine that it's the majority. And I do see what you're saying, but, I don't know.
No, and nobody would ever bring it to Dan or to Richard or Jen's attention, they would bring it to our attention, so they do.
But if somebody were determined enough to go through the contract and find something like that, then they would probably be the kind of person that would ask you about it, to which you could respond to them that the district indeed is not paying for those positions.
Well, we do, we pay for you guys, because we have to, we pay for a teacher.
Right, but
that
even
is
if
in-
I dropped off the face of the planet, you'd still be paying for that teacher to teach in that classroom. It's not like the district's out any money if
Well,
somebody.
right now, if you're out on leave, we only grant you a year's leave of absence.
Mhm.
You guys are out for extended periods of time. I know,
Yeah.
year to year.
Gold star, thank you.
But you know what I'm saying, we give you all
Mine
through
is somewhere.
contract what it is that you all are voted in office for. So, look, I wanted to be able to answer you all, give you all a reason, and that's the reason. We're trying to shore up anybody that might try to hold us and you all as we move into our half-cent sales tax initiative, our pitch.
I'm going to repeat a line I heard earlier today. I'm going to get back to you on that. I appreciate your explanation and what you're saying. I think I understand what you're saying and why you're saying it. I've got to make sure it sits okay with a few folks.
John.
I would,
Oh, John,
with all
I'm
due
sorry.
respect to everyone at the table, the words I've heard in the community, at church and elsewhere that have affected me, and are coming to my mind right now are, there's a lot of public questioning about the number of administrators that is perceived to be at ESF, and that Dr. Bingley has been, in the eyes of many people, less than straightforward in his accounting for the number of jobs he's created there as administrators. And the school board would be better served to look in that direction to lighten their financial load, as opposed to going after one or two salaried teachers.
Well, we're not going after anybody's salary here. I mean, right
Well,
now,
then
right now, we do pay for you guys.
Well, then there's really no reason for this.
Well, as we
Other
pointed
than
out.
perception, and I don't think that perception is valid.
Well, as John, as we pointed out here, it's never been used by this union, and this union's been in existence since, I want to say, the early '70s. That it's only been used twice, but if you know, you feel like this is something that's excessive and don't need it, then, you know, all right. Okay.
All right.
It's no big deal.
Well, thank you. We asked for an explanation, and you certainly gave it to us. All right, you had another proposal that I think I'll TA pretty quickly. It was related to the sky outside.
Yes, would we like to recess, or not recess, would we like to adjourn for this evening? And
All
you
right.
guys work on your language, and we'll see you guys tomorrow at 8 o'clock?
We see Armageddon blowing through.
Before the tornado gets
I'm
here?
gonna suggest that with my team, we work from 8 to 8:30, just to put together this language, and then just you can tell your team that we won't, we'll actually start at 8:30. But my
All
team,
right.
because we're gonna do some language writing, if that works for you all.
Team, everybody okay with that?
Start at 8:30.
Start at 8:30.
Start at
works for
8:30,
us.
but my team will be here at 8 o'clock, the room will be open, I'm sure, we'll write some language, and,
Okay, so I need to let Debbie Guinzy know to open this room up at 8 o'clock for you guys, right?
yes, please, if
Well,
this,
knowing him and I, you better open at 7:30.
well, I can get it to the cafeteria, but if this apparatus is here, we'll put some stuff up on the board, if we like it, then we'll just figure out how to print it, so we can sign it.
All right, the only thing Debbie asked me to do after the end of the night is to roll that chart paper to the office. Do you need it tomorrow? Will you need it tomorrow?
No, I think we'll put the language up on this, I was pointing this thing out over there,
All right.
this.
All right. So you guys will be here at 7:30, and we'll start at 8:30, right?
Right, I'm asking my team to be here normal 8, but you
Right.
guys sleep in, we'll see you at 8:30.
I'm asking my team to be here at 8 o'clock, or do you all want to start at 8:30?
He's gonna be in here.
Right?
Well, you know, I don't have to meet in here, we can type on
You'll
here.
be in here, you need that.
Okay, then we'll use that.
We
Does
can
that
meet in the
have-
cafeteria then.
We'll meet in the cafeteria. You guys have got a cafeteria in the
Does this
cafeteria.
have all the gizmos you need to?
Hey,
Oh, yeah, it does, right, it's on there,
That's
okay.
So meet in the cafeteria at 8.
right.
Okay,
All right.
I will have my leave paper for you.
All right. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you all.
Thank you, guys.